I'm not a sound guy, so whenever I purchase sound gear, it's more of a necessity than it is something that I really look forward to. But when I discovered the Tentacle Track E system, that was probably the first audio equipment that I was actually excited for. So I think for a lot of people like me who do a lot of solo shooting, or even in a small team of two who don't really have a dedicated sound person, it's really a small game changer to have a device that you don't really have to worry about, that records in 32-bit float, so you don't have to constantly change levels. And overall, in this video, I want to talk to you about the Tentacle Track E system, what I like about it, why I don't think they're perfect but really close to, and how this kinda changed the game for me when doing a lot of filmmaking. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to Monkey Pixels. Since I'm recording this entire video on the Tentacle Track E lavalier microphone system, I wanted to set the tone for the video. Get it? Setting the tone? Because we're talking about audio? Never mind. I'm wearing a button shirt for the first time on this YouTube channel because a lot of my interviewees are wearing button shirts as well, so I kind of wanted to dress the part. I know it doesn't look as good as our Monkey Pixels merch that is currently on our website for purchase, link in the description below. And if you want to support the channel, you can actually check them out and get one for yourself. But enough of that, let's start talking about the Tentacle Track E microphone system. The Tentacle Track E system is a true wireless microphone system, and it records internally into a small field recorder and doesn't send any wireless transmission or wired transmission to your camera, so that obviously has a lot of advantages. One really big advantage of the Track E system is that you never have to worry about your subject being too far away, or when filming in a really busy city area that you might have any signal interference, because that happened to me a lot and that is always a little bit stressful. But with this you can totally rely on everything being recorded and also everything being in sync when using the Tentacle sync system. But not only that, it also gives you the highest quality possible because it records internally and doesn't have to send a signal to your camera that then goes directly into the preamps of your camera, but instead it records directly into its own field recorder that also does 32-bit float, but I will talk about this in a second. One of the biggest advantages that the Track E system has over its competitors like the Zoom F2, in my opinion, is that it has integrated timecode, and that is something that I use a lot. I already made a complete video about that, how I use it and how I have my workflow set up, but for me this is an absolute game changer, because now with all my cameras, the R5, the C300 Mark III and the Tentacle Sync system, I have everything in one app and I can have as many Track E recorders as I want in the field, and I have them all synced via timecode. And for me, this is so convenient and definitely a game changer, opposed to, let's say, a Zoom F2. Another potentially really cool feature is that they offer an Apple Watch app, and currently it only displays the timecode running, which is pretty much useless, but I talked to them and in future they're planning to work with the developers to actually show you if it is currently recording. And that for me would be so cool, because then I could actually shoot and just look at my watch if it's still recording, just to get a little bit of peace of mind. Another really big advantage of the Tentacle Track E system is that a lot of people have to do interviews with multiple subjects, and it's always a pain in the ass if you have a DSLR, for example, or even a cinema camera that doesn't really have multiple inputs when you want to laugh up multiple people just to get these signals into your camera. And with the Tentacle Track E system, that isn't really a problem, because you can have as many subjects as possible and everyone has their own recorder that the Tentacle Track E microphone records directly into. And that is overall a pretty cool system. Let's take the following scenario. You're shooting a documentary and you have, let's say, 4 people in the shot. So you place one of these Tentacle Track E systems on each one of your subjects. In the Tentacle Track E app, you can now rename every device according to the person it's connected to, and that makes it so much easier in post-production afterwards. But now let's back up a little and talk about the devices itself a little more. If you purchase the Tentacle Track E system, you get one field recorder, you get a lavalier microphone, an additional clip to attach it to your subject, as well as different color rubber bands so you can distinguish between different devices if you have multiple. The field recorder itself has a secure thread, so you can attach your lavalier microphone to it and don't have to worry about it accidentally being plugged off. It also has a headphone jack out, and I will talk about this in a minute because this is a little bit special. You also have a USB-C port, you have a micro SD card in, and you also have a on and off button. And that's pretty much all there is to it. On the front there's also a little LED indicator that shows you your levels when you're actually talking, so you know that the thing is recording, and that's basically it. The device is pretty solidly built, so you can just put it into your pocket and you don't have to worry about anything coming loose or you're breaking the thing. It also has an integrated battery, so you don't have to worry about swapping out batteries. And I know a lot of people prefer having swappable batteries. Me personally, I don't, because those are actually really long lasting. And I was shooting for 4 hours at a time and it barely made a dent into my battery life. And whenever I hook it up to the computer to transfer my files, I connect it via USB-C to my computer and then it's charging anyway. So whenever I plug it off, it's already fully charged. So I don't worry about battery life at all. So one thing I heard people worry about is, what if you put that thing on your subject and they accidentally turn it off while recording, because you can't really hear anything because you can't monitor the audio. And let me show you how long it takes for your subject to actually turn off that thing accidentally. And this is how long you have to press down the button until it actually shuts off. So if you or your subject actually turns that thing off accidentally while recording, he or she is a dumbass. And while we're on the subject, let's address the biggest problem that I and a lot of other people have with the Tentacle Track E system, and that is monitoring your audio. While the Tentacle Track E system is attached to a subject, you can't really monitor the audio at all via headphones. And although this isn't really a problem for setting the levels, because you're recording in 32-bit float and you don't really have to constantly check and change your levels, it does become a problem because especially with lavalier microphones, you want to hide them a lot of the times, and then you introduce some fabric rustling or have other noises that you don't really want to have in there, and in order to control that, you would like to actually monitor your audio. And while it is attached to a subject, you can't really do that. If your biggest concern is that your Track E isn't recording anymore and you wouldn't notice because you can monitor it, I don't think that's a problem at all, because you can just see in your app that the thing is recording at all times and you can just check sporadically, and I never had an issue with it at all. I shot multiple documentary shoots for hours and hours on end, and I just had it on record the entire time and never had an issue, and I just sporadically checked my phone if it's still recording, and that gave me a lot of peace of mind for the entire shoot. But if you just want to make sure that you don't have any outside noises in there, there is a workaround for this. Number one would be just to record a test audio file and then hit stop and then plug in your headphones into the device and just listen to it. And I don't know if it's just the COVID-19 talking, but I kind of feel that a little bit unprofessional or even uncomfortable if you have to go to your subject, stand right next to them, plug in your headphones and just monitor the audio, and it kind of feels unprofessional. But again, maybe that's just the COVID talking. But here's workaround number two, and that is the workaround that I'm using. You can actually use your wireless Go from Rode, for example, plug them into the headphone out of the Track E system, and then at all times monitor the audio wirelessly via your headphones. And of course that isn't really the most elegant version, because now you have two transmitters at your subject at all times, although the wireless Go are really tiny. Plus you kind of have to get an additional wireless Go. In my case I already had them, so I just used them for this. But overall I think for me that actually works very well. And here's a big disclaimer, because I think that this method only works outside of the United States due to some patent issues. Here in Europe it actually works fine, but I heard that within the United States you can't monitor the audio via the headphone output while recording on the Tentacle Track E system due to some patent issues. I already hinted at it a couple of times, so now let's talk about 32-bit float. What is it and why do I think that this is actually the game changer here? I will only briefly touch on this right now because I will do a full review in the near future, so make sure to be subscribed and hit that notification bell if you're interested in that. But now let's do a really simplistic overview of what 32-bit float is and why I think it's a total game changer. 32-bit float basically means that you record at an insane dynamic range when it comes to your volume. So if you have a subject that really whispers at one point and then is really loud at the other end, it still records everything and you don't have to worry about anything clipping because you can just bring it back in post and vice versa. And especially if you're a solo shooter or in a really small team, it's so easy to just put the Track E system onto your subject, set the levels somewhat where you want them to have, and then not have to worry about this at all. And I had this in so many different situations when shooting interviews. When you do your sound check, usually your subject is way quieter than when they actually start talking. And sometimes during the interview they just laugh out loud or they're just getting excited, so they're like really loud at one point, or when it gets a little bit emotional they're actually lowering their voice. And with this you don't really have to worry about constantly changing your levels, because whatever you want to do afterwards you can just bring it up or bring down in post, and you don't have to worry about clipping or introducing too much noise into your audio file when raising up the volume by too much. And for me personally, this is a game changer because I do a lot of solo shooting with multiple cameras or in a small team of 2, and I have to worry about recording, the lighting, as well as my subject. And not having to worry about constantly changing levels is such a peace of mind. And I notoriously set my levels too low on set because I'm so worried about clipping when somebody just starts laughing or just being loud. So when just editing the footage in post, I usually have to raise the volume up, and that oftentimes just decreases the audio quality. Speaking of audio quality, let's talk about the audio quality of the lavalier itself. And again, I'm not a sound person, I'm not an expert here, but to me it sounds pretty good. The only thing that I did notice is that it does have a little bit of a noise floor. So I will shut up for a couple seconds and let you listen to it. Alright, so that's what it sounds like without any editing, just raising the volume. So again, it has a little bit of a noise floor. When talking, it doesn't really matter that much, but if you're familiar with any kind of noise reduction in post, then that's actually not an issue. So there you have it, this was my Tentacle Track E system review, and as you already could tell, I really love them. I think they're a small game changer for the kind of filmmaking that I do, and I use them on documentary shoots, on corporate shoots. I sometimes use them for my own YouTube videos, so they're so versatile and I don't have any issues with any interference or my subject being out of range or not maintaining a line of sight from the transmitter to the receiver. And for me, this is just a really great tool to have in my pocket, and those are the go-to lavalier microphones that I use for basically everything from now on. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, give this video a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel to see future videos, put on the notification bell to know when I upload the next one, and while you're already here, follow me on Instagram because I do a lot of new gear testing and answering questions on my Instagram stories, so maybe that's interesting for you as well. And at this point, I hope to see you on the next one.